Hello and welcome to episode 5 of EUphoria. We are available on SoundCloud, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, etc. Wherever you're listening. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And speaking of that, I'm Drakos, this is Caedrel, but our very special guest for the week, it's wow, that was great. Jankos, welcome. I'm starstruck,
Hello.
bro. I can't even get through an intro.
It's the smile.
It's a smile.
Damn smile.
Damn smile.
I mean, I'm here. Hello, guys. Hello.
Welcome.
You too.
Thank you.
I accepted the invitation before we went 0-2.
Yes.
Now we went 0-4. Actually, I accepted it before we went 0-2 again.
So
Like
you were
after
0-2.
like 1-0-2, I saw we are gonna play SK Gaming and Misfits, and I was like,
Surely.
there's no way, surely. Surely, I'm not gonna go 0-2 again, right? And now I'm here. On Tuesday. I guess we are recording Tuesday.
Just play the music. You might be wondering how I ended up in this place.
Cautiously optimistic that you're going to be coming here after a 2-0 week. Well, I appreciate you committing so far ahead of time and sticking with it despite a difficult week. Did you I know it's usually like 1-day weekends for pros right now. Did you get any joy out of your weekend, or were you just stressed about recovering from the 0-4? Did you do anything fun?
I mean, actually, we had a team conversation on Saturday after the game, right? As we probably had to after going 0-4. And I think it was pretty productive. I think we found out what should we do going onwards to try to improve our performance. And well, it's always like a bullshit kind of thing where players always say that and then like not much changes, right? But I mean, with our team, we have proven ourselves a little bit at least. So we know that we are capable of winning, but we are just not there quite yet, right? So I do think we can do better. And Sunday, we all chilled a little bit, played a lot of solo queue, went for a team dinner, and now I'm here. My manager told me yesterday, the taxi will be waiting for you outside at 10. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, I am for you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So excited.
So yeah.
So how do those talks actually go with the team when you have like that bullshit discussion? Is it like everyone gets in the room together, all the players, all the coaching staff, and you individually go one by one as to what they think the problem is personally, and then Dylan kind of leads it?
Well, I think it depends on the team. For our team, it's basically depends on the meeting as well. So sometimes coach leads it, right? Because sometimes coach has something to say. Sometimes maybe our manager is unhappy with the state of the team and he brings it up, right? Sometimes the players themselves have something to say. So in this situation on Saturday, it was our manager who started the meeting and mentioned a lot of things, and then I took over, and then after me everyone went one by one. So I think that it hardly depends on like what kind of meeting is it really and what do we want to talk about. But after going 0-4, then we had everyone had something to say to each other. That is not the nicest always, right? But sometimes you have to be really mean, I feel like. Okay, not really mean, just you have to be honest. Honesty is very important, right? Because if you hide, especially that I feel like us as a team, we are quite close together and we are good individual friends in a way, like we like each other. So always being honest when someone is playing badly or someone's making mistakes is not always easy. But it's very important in a team environment to be like, you can be friends, but you have to also be like healthy professionals. And in that matter, I feel like we did a good job on Saturday.
So I think the line for me, because like I think those meetings exist in any time you work on a team. They happen in casting teams too. More often just like one-on-one if you're casting as a duo. But the line for me between those meetings being total bullshit, like kumbaya, everybody get together and vent their feelings, blah 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 blah, and like actually tangible is like what you take from them. So when you finish, is there like a list? Is there like, does it affect your goals heading into the next week? Is it something where like this stuff gets written down? Or is it like, all right, I told you I think you sucked this week, and now we've let out all the steam, and now we can just like go back to doing our thing?
I mean, I think it depends on the meeting again, right? In this case, I think was letting out of a lot of steam, but also having kind of a plan on what should we focus on coming into week 5 of LEC, where we can start winning, right? Because I mean, for big teams, for big names like G2 Esports, Fnatic, Mad Lions, or some others, it's always about playoffs, right? It's always about getting to playoffs and then thinking about worlds, thinking about first place, thinking about winning. But you have to get to playoffs first. And I feel like we currently are not in luxury enough position to take it easy in the season and to take it slow. Even though we went to MSI, even though we're in Spring Split, we just can't. Like there is a world where we end up 7th, 8th, 9th, and then we don't make it to playoffs. And that would probably be like one of the biggest downfalls from spring to summer for a team. So not even making the playoffs, right? And I don't even think that it's going to be, placing top 3 and qualifying to Worlds is not that insanely difficult based on the standing system in LEC. So if you finish in top 3, you have to play one BO5, right? That you have to
and
win.
then you're in. Yeah.
And then you're in. So it would be such a shame to like not even be able to go towards this year because we already missed out last year. So, but anyway, I went a bit far. Currently, I think we have some goals. I think we let out a lot of steam. I think overall we had a lot of feedback. What should be changed? What is good? What should stay the same? And we have to focus on winning some games.
Sick. Well, let's keep talking about G2 then, because I think this is interesting. We'll talk about the league as a whole for those who want to hear more about what was an insane week of upsets, because it's just interesting to follow this road down. What do you think is like? Why have the last 2 weeks, and obviously there was a break between them, why were those weeks like so difficult? Like what made finding these wins so hard for you guys?
Honestly, I feel like it was quite individual performances. I think that as a team, we still had like a decent idea on how to play the game, but at some points I felt like we fell behind on the meta. We were too slow to adapt to the patches because as soon as we came back from MSI, the meta was still the same from MSI. Yeah, of course, there was durability patch, but the champions played were like pretty much the same. And then I think over the course of a couple of patches, the meta shifted a bit, and we fell behind. So that was one of the problems, in my opinion. The other problem was individual performances. I felt like we were just dying in the early game everywhere, right? You can even bring up me and Caps dying 2v2 to Julius and Certus, I think. Against SK Gaming this weekend, but you can also bring up bot lane getting solo killed, top lane getting solo killed, or ganked, right, or us losing 2v2 with BB against Fnatic. So I feel like there's just many things that went wrong, and it was either in the jungle department or in the mid lane department or the top lane department, bot lane department, like everyone was just sucking. So I feel like it's very easy to say why we lost because we just played really badly, right? And sometimes you have these struggles as a team where you go into 30-minute games and you're like, oh my God, we didn't know how to play on Drake, or we messed up this Baron. For us, it's like very straightforward. Like every game is just lost in 10 minutes. So if the game is just not lost in 10 minutes, we can probably win. You know, we probably know how to play the game after 15 minutes. We even like stalled one of the, I think all of these games we stalled, we got some Drakes. We actually did make some mistakes in the mid games where maybe we could have closed out the games against, for example, Misfits or SK Gaming. I feel like this weekend was very, very winnable. But I think against Fnatic and Mad Lions, I feel like the games were just so difficult to play already from like 10 minutes onwards, right? And it was more on enemy team throwing than us winning. So this is a big vocal point right now for us is to, you know, fix that, fix the laning phase, fix the jungle piping, or rather fix the early game as a whole. And I think we can do that.
The amount of times I've heard this before so many times, different teams having the same issue. Like once or twice a split, you have like this week or 2 weeks where like the first 10 minutes is just lost and everything's falling apart. You don't really know what the problem is. We were talking a little bit about meta on the last podcast about how like in the LPL and the LCK, things like Sylas are really strong. The LPL playstyle is like the mad playstyle where they've adopted just picking Lissandra and Talia and diving both side lanes. So I think we're seeing some styles from teams right now. And I guess you guys are just trying to find one for now in this new meta.
Well, kinda. I think that mad style is probably the most straightforward. And I feel like they have Exodia drafts right now. I actually feel like their drafts, I mean, maybe because they play LPL, right? But I feel like their drafts are so good. And I feel like they are so easy to play, you know? I feel like you don't need hands to play the drafts. And at the same time, they are just like very strong. So I do think that Matt had like figured out a way for them to play the game, and it's working, right? They are like the top team right now in Europe.
I mean, I can just look at some of Mad drafts just for the viewers at home, right? They're playing Lee and Lissandra, incredible 2v2 mid jungle, Nar top, and then just kind of some engaged support bot is basically their flavor.
I think that was the draft against Astralis this week, where they basically played Lissandra against Trundle and Camille into Nar first pick, or rather Nar first pick, and then they just like kept going top and diving top, right? So Vizzazi had like probably one of the worst performances. Then they threw a little bit, I remember as well, but I feel like when you have such a solid, strong early games and strong fundamentals in draft, you can allow yourself to mess up a little bit and still win, right? Just because you have that lead. If they were to not be able to snowball the game, that would be a problem, right? Because this kind of draft is also in a way risky. If you don't know how to play that draft to snowball, you will most likely lose because your champs will get outscaled. Orianna is going to outscale Lissandra, right? Trundle is going to be more useful than Lisa in teamfight. So I do see these drafts going backwards, but I still think they are easy to play, and I still think that it's not a very difficult game plan. You just have to execute on it, right? And it feels like to me, Matt Wedniski can do that better than with someone else, Ricker.
Ricker, there you go. Someone else, damn the shade. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I like definitely also champions like the Lissandra, champions like the Rel, because it feels like there's a lot of teams. Astral is definitely one of them who are just like getting away with like scale to late, scale to late, scale to late. So like having really proactive engage options is always really good. And I think Lissandra is such a stupid character. I feel like the second you're ahead at all with that character and you get a passive reset in any fight, it's just actually over. It's super doomed. So I love that they're playing it. I love that it keeps coming out. But in general, G2, like, do you guys feel like why do you feel like your read on the meta was bad? Because I feel like when we were coming into playoffs last season and into MSI, I felt like we were giving a lot of love to Dylan, and we don't, to be fair, really know how your drafting process works behind the scenes. So whoever helps with draft, whoever does good drafts at G2 was doing good at the end of last season. It feels like you guys always had new answers, always had new things going on. The Anivia at MSI, maybe we think it's the stroke of genius. Maybe it's Cap just being like, yeah, sure, I'll play Anivia. Whatever.
I had a dream.
I had a dream. But like now it feels like it has slowed down. We're coming into a new patch. What is like the process like for getting back either on top of being just in the meta, drafting in the meta, good solid drafts, or like getting one step ahead? What is that process actually like?
Well, I think if you want to be ahead of the meta, you actually need to figure out the meta first, right? Because you can never really go one step forwards without being at the same place as everyone else, because you don't actually know what is the meta. So for us, I think a lot of the previous weeks were meant to catch up in a way and also figure out what do we want to play, what is the meta, right? And as soon as we can figure that out, we can look for answers to certain meta champions that we can use to our advantage. And I feel like we had these answers in week 1 and 2 where we picked up some wins.
Yep.
Where we were, I think, drafting quite well, actually. And we had a lot of just Fiesta drafts where we could just go in and, mess things up. Currently, though, I think we are drafting a little bit more meta. And maybe this is actually one of the problems, right? Maybe this is not working for us. Maybe just drafting the very standard champions is not something that we were good at as well in Spring Split playoffs. Because even when we were winning in Spring, we were drafting answers to meta things, right? And we were trying to kind of be one step ahead, like you mentioned. So if people would have Aphelios, we would play Misfortune. But if then they would leave Aphelios, we would pick that up and try to find a good matchup and stuff. So I feel like we were ahead, and I feel like we had Exodia drafts in playoffs, and this is why the playoffs went so well for us.
Yeah.
As soon as we ended or lost rather the BO5 against Fnatic, we had like a big talk, and then another week. And I actually felt like already back then we were a good team when we lost to Fnatic. So I was very shocked that we lost. I think we were like giga choking on stage as well. And I think that our drafts that time were very winnable against Fnatic already, but I think we just played bad.
Yeah.
But then we even improved on these drafts, and we found even newer answers, and we were even more and more confident. Of course, with each BO5, you also grow more confident in your ability to play the game, and enemy team has to sweat because they just lost, and they're coming in against G2 that is like 6-0, 9-0, 12-0 and stuff. So I feel like the winning streak was also a big reason as to why we were so dominant. And it is much different to go on stage and play a BO1 after going 0-4. And it's much different to go on stage and play a BO5 after winning just 2 of them back to back. So I think that BO1s, of course, are a big subject here. They suck hard.
Not a fan of the BO1 system.
But I do think that it's completely normal, and we don't struggle because of BO1s. We struggle because we are a bad team and because we just cannot find answers. So we just have to get better.
I assume then for you and for your players, because especially like I know Dylan is really comfortable giving players comfort picks. I know you never get to have fun. You have to play whatever the hell is meta and boring. But I know BB and Caps are both big players who like to brainstorm, like to come up with weird picks, like to play their weird counter picks. Is it good for like if we sit on a patch for a really long time? Do you feel like G2 benefits more from that than other teams do?
I think we do, but I also think it kind of depends what the patch is about. I think that we do have like pretty open-minded players in our team, and I think everyone is looking for answers. But there has to be some stability, right? And I feel like I bring that stability to the team where they can kind of rely on me to bring like solid early games and like very similar champion pool in a way that they can play off of it.
Yeah.
And well, guess what? We just lost 4 games, so maybe they can't rely on me as much anymore.
And that's the question. It's
but
just, we've been on 12-12 for like a month now, basically.
And 12B.
And then you guys came in and it was rough. Like, what was the week of practice like leading up to this, tragic 0-2 into 0-2? What was it like?
Happy scrims.
So week 3, we lose to Mad.
Yep.
Then we lose to Fnatic. then we already decided that if we have like a decent early season, the first half, like 3 weeks, right? There's 1 week in between week 3 and 4. So we already decided that because we went to MSI, we didn't have like any vacation whatsoever, like any free time. So we're gonna take a week off between week 3 and 4 if we have enough wins, right? So we started with like 3-0 into 4-1. So surely
We're gonna be
that's
fine.
a pretty good start, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we can
yeah.
probably take a week off. Then we take a week off. We come back. We have 4 days of scrims, 3 days of scrims, I think, because 1 day was used for something else. And then we play SK Gaming Misfits. So technically, not the best teams in the standings. Back then, SK was 1 win. Misfits were, I think, 2 wins less as well. I think they went 2-0 this week. So
Yeah, they were 3-4.
probably-
You guys were 4-3.
yeah, so probably it's winnable. Like probably
Yeah.
if there's any teams that you can allow yourself to take break against, it would be probably Misfits and Escape, maybe not, Mad Lions and Rogue, right? That
Yeah,
are
yeah.
currently destroying the standings. But we were wrong, I suppose, and I think we just didn't like catch up on the meta fast enough. But I also feel like we just played really badly. I feel like our drafts were not the reason why we lost these games. I feel like we didn't play very well, and that again goes back to our early games.
Yeah.
Either we are dying individually on lanes, or we are choosing bad timings to gank, getting outplayed, things like that. So, and then when you start the game from behind, again, it's just hard to come back, right? We get some Drakes, but we played against Misfits, where the game was like a bit winnable, but then Corky Rockets and Zeri W at some point just do 1k damages, right? So it's like kind of hard to win.
Are you telling me you got
team fights.
season 12?
Yeah, so even though we stalled the game to 40 minutes, it's not like we are scaling necessarily better than them at that point. So
Yeah, I
I
remember.
do think that, we had some like decent ideas, and I'm not super worried. So I'm worried, of course, because how can you not be worried after like getting
Sure. Yeah.
things done to you so often,
Yeah,
like
getting
0-4,
smashed.
But I believe we are on a good way right now,
Yeah.
as of Tuesday this week, on a good way to bring back some wins. And, in the end, it's all about getting to playoffs right now. So any wins are good wins.
Yeah, Phil, if we could bring up the standings, because you guys right now are next to Astralis in 7th, which of course is a number that I'm very familiar with. You talked about not being worried, but does it,
I was gonna make that joke. You can't make fun of yourself.
it's better if I self joke because then it doesn't feel as bad for
Yeah,
me.
because people give me shit for bullying you sometimes. They're like, "Stop being mean to him."
So, dude, if you get message about that, Medic must get destroyed in his DMs for it because he does it every single time.
You got a lot of white knights out there. They're trying to defend you.
Yeah. So you guys actually play against Astralis this week. You play against Rogue. Does it worry you that yes, you lost to SK Misfits, but does it worry that you lost to SK Misfits, so your schedule can only really be harder, right? When you're in a position like 7th.
No,
No? Not scared of anyone?
not scared at all, actually. Like, I mean, it could be like Giga Copium. It's just, I don't think that teams in LEC are, insane. I mean, I think Rogue, of course, playing very solid, always winning lanes, good drafts, right? Snowballing the games well,
Yep.
knowing how to play the game. Mad Lions very similar. Excel, struggling a little bit. Fnatic, same thing. Misfits bringing back a lot of wins right now. Vitality is like a little bit of a question mark. I think they're quite solid, but they are not like insane, right? But the point is that I feel like all of the teams are still beatable because, everyone is losing, right? Maybe except for Rogue, which we have to face.
That's a
this
good
week.
way to sum up the league. Everyone's losing.
Yeah, but everyone's losing.
yeah. Look at everyone's
losing. So if we somehow win 2 games, right now,
Yep.
then we end up with like what, top 3, top 4, something like that, right? It depends
yeah.
how other teams will do. So I feel like we can still make it to playoffs, and we have to get wins, but we shouldn't stress ourselves out to a point where if we don't get wins, it's completely over, because it's just never not. And sometimes 8 wins is just enough to get to playoffs, and then if we get to playoffs, you can still win.
Yep.
Besides that, we have a lot of points from Spring Split, so high chance if we get to playoffs, no matter what, we are in top 4. We have the luxury of that because teams like
Yep.
Matt didn't even make playoffs last split, so they have no points, right? So even if they're first, they might just like end up with less points than us. So yeah, anyway, the point is we don't want to stress ourselves out too much, and the standings are even. We are 7th, 8th, but we are 1 win away from being in the
Tie for third.
Yeah, tie for third with like
Yeah.
all the other teams, right?
It's a
So I
mess.
think it's gonna be a lot about playing against the same teams again, playing against Fnatic again, trying to get that win back, playing against Excel, going 2-0 over them in case we are tied, so we go over them, things like that. Luxury thing, which is like not good, but LEC system works if you are if you have a draw, if you are 1-1 against teams, then the team with higher number of wins in the second half matters.
Yeah.
And because we have only 4 wins in the first half, then we are surely there's many teams that we are gonna go over if we have the same wins and we are tied. You know,
like
so there's a lot, like so much positivity. No, there's just so many things that just went right.
I'm
even though we are
because
4-5.
you're the only player I've heard of that seems to actually understand the tiebreaker system and the
very
playoff
true,
seeding
actually,
system. Every other time, I'm like, oh yeah, so win record in the second half. Head to head, they're like, oh, I thought it was just
when you went to the Messiah,
I thought it was game time.
when you went to Messiah, and right now we are struggling for you to keep your job because you're maybe not making the playoffs in G2.
Carlos, wins in the second half are more important. Don't bench me, please.
Finding everything you can possible.
He's like calling Vitality. He's like, which of your 3 junglers would like to come?
That bow guy looks good in solo queue.
So I have everything in my small finger. Oh yeah, actually we can do this and this and that. Okay, we are first.
See, that's copium. But I respected that you
it's
know
the drawer
that.
of excuses.
Yeah,
the reasoning.
You're ready. I respect it. Well, I'm curious to see how it works out. I hope for your guys' sake. It's cool to hear that you're so willing to accept that it's just an individual performance thing, which is also hard because it's like, when the answer is just play better, what is our analysis? Like, okay, G2 today, they just have to play better. But it's a fair point. Looking at the league as a whole, though, and kind of coming back to week 4 and the path that has led us to this, everyone in the league is losing, most certainly. Rogue and Mad maybe a little bit less than everyone else, but like, why are there so many upsets just generally? Obviously, Astralis beat Excel, Misfits beat Fnatic and G2, they're super rising. SK beat you guys. Sorry, I'm not just trying to like remind you of this over and over again. But there were a ton of upsets this week. Is everybody good? Is everybody bad? They talked about this a little bit on PGL last week with VTO. But like, why are we seeing so many of these upsets?
I mean, I feel like maybe, just maybe, right? Maybe Riot just destroyed the game with the durability, but or maybe not. Or maybe suddenly a lot of teams are good,
and they can go down 8k gold. They can go down 8k gold, and they can still win the game for one team fight.
I mean, I'm not sure, right? But to be honest, I feel like probably the level in Europe is not that high, right? And people tend to try to take less risks as well because of BO1, right? And I still think that if it matters most, and we go to BO5 system playoffs, then a lot of these teams that are currently in top 6, excluding G2, because we are not, I think a lot of these teams would struggle. I mean, we even remember Misfits in regular season last split, right, where they were still at, I think, top 4 team or so.
Yeah, they were third
place. And then,
place,
Rogue having to play them, and then them just like losing everything after. I just feel like there are teams that like, if they're in playoffs, it's a waste.
Dang.
And we just lost to Misfits. I'm not like calling out Misfits specifically, but I just think that the teams that in my opinion will do well in playoffs is probably Fnatic can do well in playoffs. I can see actually Excel doing a bit better in a BO5. I can see Mad Rogue being good teams for playoffs, so I'm not gonna mention our name again because we are 4-5, so we don't even deserve playoffs right now, but I do think that some teams probably would put up a better showing in playoffs. But in the end, to get there, you have 18 wins. So there's no excuses.
I mean,
like there's actually no excuses. 18 games. If you lose 18 games, if you don't make it to playoffs, because you lose 18 BO1s, then you just suck. That's it. So, if we don't make it to playoffs, we just don't deserve playoffs. And guess what?
What?
Nothing.
You and I have a follow. You know what? You had no follow. I wasn't ready. I was like, where are you going?
So I was like really hyped. I don't know.
I was with the best or with the worst. I don't know what's going on.
I mean, I completely agree. And I think that there is definitely the thing about best of ones that's nice is that you don't have definitive answers. The thing about best of 3 is you just know who the best team is coming out of the regular season. Regular season, like you were like, you're finished and regular season was mediocre as hell in spring. And then you guys like shot up out of nowhere. And that's kind of the thrill of it. But the downside is it's a hot mess, and a team like, let's say Astralis, who are kind of like Chachi's literally getting obliterated every single laning phase. And he's making up for it in team fights, don't get me wrong, but like, that shit's probably not going to fly in a best of 5. Like, if his Ornn is the problem, they're just going to ban his Ornn, right? And I think that it's a similar story for Misfits last season, where it was like, it wasn't, calling it only the VTO show is, I think, a little bit disrespectful, but it was like, okay, if we ban VTO out, the team like really needs him to be good. And I think most teams spent like 2 or 3 bans on VTO and the team kind of collapsed, right? And I'm sure there's other factors too there. Without talking to Misfits, I don't want to just say that's definitive, but there are teams where like, that they have this depth of strategy coming into best of 5, and there are teams who are good at like one thing and they pretty much show one thing in the regular season. And in a lot of the cases of these upsets, I think Astralis are definitely among them. I think Misfits maybe less so in their wins, but like definitely were in the past season. It's like they do this one thing, well. In Astralis' case, it's like the team fight pretty well. They could get great at coming back from these deficits. Yes, are they leveraging objective bounties pretty heavily? Yeah, sure. But whatever, that systems is in the game. And maybe there's a world where Astralis make playoffs and they've got some 6 best-of-5 strategies, but like I would not bet on that at this point if they did make playoffs. I would assume that they have this one strategy and it will probably fall apart in best-of-5.
Is that how you see it? Because Misfits in spring last split, you were just talking about it, they finished 3rd. And then you demolished them in playoffs. Like the trio was like 25-minute games. I remember we were casting it. I think it was me, Trevor, and Gulborg. It was so quick, that best of 5, went home, job done. What is the specific, like if you had to outline like one reason as to why these teams go into playoffs, into best of 5, and they just fall apart? Is it that during the regular season they don't show the amount of play styles or different styles that they could approach a best of 5 with? Is the caliber of players in your eyes just weak?
I mean, I think I can approach it from like a totally different perspective because I don't think these players are like bad,
Yeah.
and I don't think these teams are like completely clueless. But I think I will approach it from mental perspective. I think a lot of these teams, they don't actually aim to be number 1. They just aim to like get to playoffs. They aim to like, maybe we can be top 3 or maybe we can be top 5. Oh, our goal is to make it to playoffs this year. You know what I mean? Like I think mental state of a player is important, and I feel like a lot of these teams are like losing scrims. A lot of these teams are just, after 8 weeks of LEC, they are so mentally exhausted that they are not capable of like still pushing through playoffs, trying their hardest while losing and while actively trying to get better, if that makes sense. So I think mental aspect of League of Legends player, especially in playoffs, is quite important. And I feel like for me at least, Misfits is a team that probably after losing to Rogue Trio back then, didn't really try as hard, or maybe just didn't feel like they have a chance, like probably they, like, I'm not saying they did because I don't want to again call them out because I'm not in the team, I don't know. But to me at least, maybe they mentally given up, right?
Maybe they just felt defeated. Whereas do you feel like your kind of experience in being conditioned in those scenarios where like you've had years, like 2019 was a long year for you probably in competitive play, like in terms of scrims from regular season to playoffs to international, regular season playoffs, international. Do you feel like you've conditioned yourself to like 8 weeks of LEC feels pretty easy?
I mean, the good thing for me is that I also stream. I mean, this is completely like a bit off topic, but a bit on topic because when we lose a lot, I have to go on stream, turn it on and listen to a lot of people calling me out and, a lot of, and I've been a pro player for like 8 years now. So I've been through a lot of things in my life. So I feel like I'm not, again, that worried even right now. And I still know what we are capable of and I still know we can win and we can make playoffs, hopefully, right? And the same thing goes to, if the season is logging like in 2019, I think what helps a lot is if you are a good team, right? Of course, because if you are winning a lot of scrims and if you are winning games on stage, then even though it's a long season, you're having so much fun because, winning is fun. In the end, all the pro players are here to win. All the pro players want to be the best. So in 2019, we had no one who could face us. So we were winning probably like 95%, 90% of the scrims. Until Worlds, I think that year where we were losing a lot of scrims to FPX, but even against other teams we were winning, right? So it felt like we are just so good that it was just so fun to even play another game of League of Legends because you are just so good, you are winning everything. But then let's say we are a team like BDS, right? I mean, I'm not sure if they're winning scrims. We didn't really play them lately. Or I don't even think we played them this split in scrims. But I'm not sure how they are doing in scrims, right? But let's say, imagine you are 1-0 on stage, and then you go to scrims, and then 4 times a week, 5 games a day, maybe more, depends how many scrims you play, you get destroyed or you just lose. Every single day, every single game, you lose. I mean, just such a mental strain on your head, in my opinion, at least. Like, are you worthy? Are you here to win? Are you here to be a punchback? Yeah, exactly, right? So I feel like, and same goes for teams in playoffs, because just because, let's say, Rogue is 7-2, you don't actually know what's going on inside their heads, and same goes to Matt. And maybe team like Astralis, who is 4-5, have like the best team dynamics, and they're just so happy together, and they're having so much fun, and the mental is insane. So I feel like mental strength is actually quite an important part and aspect of League of Legends, and not every team, in my opinion, does it correctly. And it also depends on players a lot. And to me at least, some teams making to playoffs, for them that's it. For them that's like, okay,
got it.
Yeah. So they don't feel
they've hit that bar.
They're not as like focused as like they've hit that bar, so they feel like they've made it. I mean, they relieve a little bit, a couple % of performance. Yeah.
I mean, the idea that you just described, like, I think any player who's gone, I would hope that anyone who's had like a really bad League of Legends day, a loss streak, could like empathize with your hypothetical BDS situation again, because we don't know where like you're losing on stage, you're losing scrims, because even though I'm never going to feel that same level of emotion again, because for me, it's just solo queue, right?
When it's your job, you know.
But when it's your job, like the idea that you have to go to something and do something every day that you feel like you're bad at would just, to me, sounds like torture.
And that
sounds
like every
soul-crushing.
single day.
Yeah,
every single day, multiple games a day, on stage, everyone's watching you, everyone hates on you because, you know, we normally hate on people that are not doing well, unfortunately, which should be the opposite. We should be supporting them. So it's straining.
Why is my Jankos?
Yeah, that's intense. What has your mental development been like over the year? Because I feel like every time I talk to you and every time I've seen you in a team environment, you've always been like pretty chipper, pretty happy, but like you've gone through a lot of ups and downs. You know what I mean? Like you played on that, the Forgiven HK roster, which I know had its difficulties. I don't know all the specifics, but I know I'd had
some difficulties.
Yeah, it had its difficulties.
Odo touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, he touched on it a little bit. You've been through like, you are now the most senior G2 player in terms of amount of time you spent on the roster. You were the 2018 roster through now, and you've been there for the best years.
Damn!
You're like the player. Like people will look at Caps, right? Because the Caps Perkz dynamic, like franchise player, whatever. But you're the dude who's been there the longest now with Perkz gone. And I just think about you've been through so many different lineups. You've had your great moments. You've had 2018 where it was kind of surprising to see you succeed as much as you did. You had 2019 where you were the best EU team of all time. And you had like 2021 where you guys were like, kind of just a mess, a failure, and obviously like you rebuilt this year. So like, how do you keep a good mental attitude going forward? Having like, what is it like? What are the defining moments for you when it comes to developing a good mental? Because you've been through so much shit, and obviously so many great moments too. But you've kind of been through it all.
I mean, I think it's a lot about what your goals are, right? I mean, if you want to win, then you have to accept that sometimes things are just not going to go your way. And you have to also accept that everyone in your team is probably trying their hardest, even if it doesn't look like it sometimes, right? Sometimes you may feel like, oh, this guy is like not playing enough solo queue, or this guy is like not talking, or this guy has a bad day. But normally everyone is there to win, right? So I feel like there's just a lot of things that you have to like realize on your own, or maybe with some help, some experienced players as well, where people are actually like actively trying to win games and they are not inting you. And even though if someone is looking like he's inting you, he's not actually inting or doing
giving people the benefit of the doubt.
And besides that, you have to be willing to take all the losses and still keep going. Because I feel like if I would give up after the first 4 years of my career, which were not that the best, and if I would not survive in a way until 2018 where we started winning with G2, then I would miss out on a lot of good things, because in the end 2014 I had like a pretty good year. 2015 we had we were completely boosted. 2016 first time at Worlds. This is what kind of brought back a lot of motivation, because I think going to Worlds is so much different than competing in Europe. Then 17, again, another off year. 18, go to Worlds. And then ever since, always at Worlds, except for last year. And then last year is, again, a wake-up call, right? Because you were winning for 2 years. Even 2020, we were not as dominant, but we still won 2 splits. We still should have went to MSI if MSI happened that year. And then we still went to semifinals of Worlds, which is like, considering insane. People were like, in 2018, that would be insane. Because this is what we did in 2018, and Fnatic even went to finals. That was like insane for Europe. Oh my God, West can compete, right? 2019, we spoiled Europe a little bit, thinking that we are so
you did kind of
right?
like low-key no, because I'm really glad that you guys did well that year, but you have probably ruined the European fan base a little bit, because now they just like such
expectations,
high expectations. They're like, we should be fighting toe-to-toe with Korea and China, and it's like, yeah, we had that 1 year, guys, but every other year we were getting smashed. And trust me, I want that year back too. But like, you know what I mean? Like you gave the kid too many toys, and now they're like
spoiled.
Where do my toys go? And you're like, well, actually, we're broke as hell. So there's no money, and we're just you're getting like whatever we can afford for Christmas, buddy. Like we're gonna find out.
So I think that last year was quite a wake-up year after 2 successful years. Last year we didn't even make it to Worlds. Not even talking about not winning, right? Because of course we didn't win 2 splits in a row, but we also didn't make it to Worlds, and that was like a huge blow. Because watching the competition again, sitting in your chair and just missing out on everything that is fun, and you really want to compete against the best players, it just sucks. So this year the roster was built around winning, right? And maybe not everyone trusted us, and maybe not everyone had I mean, definitely some fans probably abandoned G2 and we were like, oh my god, why are you guys bringing these rookies? Why are you like kicking Reckless and all these experienced players and everything, right? But it worked out, fortunately, this far. Now, 4 or 5, but we are getting there. But anyway, it was more about mental strength. So I just do think that, you know, you have to keep pushing. I do think that it will come over time as well. When you are a rookie, you are 17, 18, 19, that some players are in LEC. You don't have that same level of mental strength, and I feel like the experienced players can bring you up, but that also requires the experienced players and the players that have been there for a while to understand how important is mental strength and to understand how they should, in a way, lead the team, right, as well. And I don't know if all of them do. I feel like Perkz actually is a name that I can praise because I feel like he actually made me a better person in a way, and I think he was, you know, very important part of success, why the team was good in 2019, even 18, right? Or 20, and I think he was praising Mitty as someone who like kind of taught him a lot. And I don't know how is Perkz now because I didn't play with him for 2-3 years now. But I do think that he brought a lot of good things in G2, at least back in the day.
Can you describe any of those good things? Like, is there any specific lessons?
I mean, I think
that
he was just quite demanding of the team, and even when the team was not, even when we were winning and we were like trolling in scrims, like having too much fun, his mood would like not be the best, because he wanted always us to kind of like perform at the highest level and try to be better, right? But besides that, I think he was a person who would always strive for like more when it comes to gameplay. Like we always look for things that you would you wanted, like he wanted to improve on, or things that we could do better. And of course, he's not that insanely smart. Like, I'm not saying he's not smart, but it's like he cannot do everything alone. So I think he was like a good leader in a way where he would make people want to do these things with him, so you could figure it out together, right? So it's not like he would be the person who would like teach you everything, even though he taught me, of course, a lot about League, because he came from a winning team, I came from a losing team in 2018. But I feel like he was just like a good leader in a way that he would make this conversation happen, and thanks to that, I feel like we would also do better.
I think that's such a huge thing. And it's not something that gets talked about as much because when a team is winning, it's easy to just say, hey, they're winning.
Complacent.
They're winning, they're good, And it's probably easy when you're on a team to say, hey, we're winning, we're good. And so that aspect of not just accepting that, but continuing to push for more is something that I think I think every human being who's successful at what they're doing, can struggle with. Because we're a pretty good casting duo. We try and we keep trying to grow. And that's hard, because some weeks we're like, we could just show up and coast it. Thank you for the cough. Thank you, Jankos.
No, you guys are pretty good.
Sometimes that Perkz mentality is hard to tap into, because there is a lot of, when you're winning or you're doing well, or in our case, you're getting good assignments, you can, to a certain degree, take a step back. So people who can keep their foot on the gas and keep pushing, I think that is a super good skill.
Yeah, especially when, I think you said it, like, you can't do everything, but you look at something and it was good, and then you say, how can it be better?
How can it be better? Yeah,
Asking yourself the how can it be better question when something is already good is a lot difficult than seeing something that's disastrous and saying, how can it be better, right?
Yeah, I mean, when something's literally on fire, you have to put the fire out. When it's like, fine, it looks good, you're like, how do you make it better? It's, I think, always a more difficult question, always harder to find that motivation, especially when the only thing that ultimately matters for most teams is results, right? For most managers, et cetera, pushing past that is big.
Was there any, out of pure curiosity, was there any other players in your career who kind of like had the Perkz impact on you, where they taught you, whether it was about the game or life or mental, just like took you a step forward as a player in all the teams you've been in all the rosters?
I feel like in 2017, I believe, I was working with a sport psychologist that pushed my mental into the correct state of not being a tilter. Because actually, in the early days of my career, I feel like in 2014, when I started playing, my early days in Roccat where there was like a lot of like big temperaments in the team, kind of. They would be sometimes kind of very toxic. Like the state of the team was toxic, and how we would talk to each other was like very toxic, I feel like.
Got it.
So then
Overpower had a rough Xerath game. You just had to talk shit to everybody.
And then I just felt like that is normal, So then when
that was the norm.
Then when I was in 2015, then I felt like, okay, so this is how I have to treat my team.
Yeah.
But this is not
bunch
exactly
of fuckers.
this is not exactly how you should treat your team. And then 2016, I think I had my days where I was like giga toxic as well, when we were losing, and I was not happy. But in 2017, I think I had like a lot of like good lessons, and also just like realizing that I'm a grown up now, so I shouldn't act like a kid. And then of course, I also think that Ryu was in a way undervalued, because people didn't, like in 2016, people didn't view him as like insane mid laner.
Yeah.
But I think he knew how to play the game, and I don't think he was good at expressing it. So he was not a good talker. I mean, he was, Korean, and he was a bit shy. So even after like the whole year with Ryu, I felt like he didn't really open up to us. But I did feel like he knew how to play the game, and he knew what to do in the game. And, he had good calls during the games quite often. So I felt like he also had like a good impact on me as like a player. But I feel like he didn't really share his knowledge, and that could be due to communication problems, that could be due to shyness, that could be due to many things. But this is one of the problems in my opinion, because if you're a good player but you can share it with other people, that's a problem. Like if I'm a good player and I cannot really share my knowledge to rookies and share my like ideas on how to play the game or what I think is good, but also take the knowledge from them, because of course, like I've been playing a long time, but the game is constantly evolving, constantly changing. So just because we have done things a certain way in, let's say, 2019 where we're winning, it doesn't mean that this is the proper way to do them in 2022, right? So I feel like you have to be willing to change a lot as a league player, and you have to be very flexible. And this is completely another subject. There's just so many things to talk about. But the point is that Ryu was good, but I wish he would open up more and be more communicative. And I think he could have made the team even stronger in 2016.
Yeah.
We also had a lot of other problems than Ryu back then. It was like, again, quite heated roster. So maybe it wouldn't help, but maybe it would have. And I think that being, a good player, it doesn't necessarily only mean, pressing the buttons correctly, but also doing things outside of the game that can be valued.
So many things, yeah.
And I think that there's like two things that we've talked about that I think are really important. And just to touch on the one that you mentioned most recently, that ability to communicate what you're thinking, why you're thinking it, how it works.
And also how you communicate it, right?
How you communicate it too, I think is really big. Because like, let's take a recent example, I think, where this has probably come into context, again, with the knowledge that we have. The Excel example is good because like when Mickey joined Excel and they started to win more, people were like, Mickey, the shot caller. And then we talked to Excel and like, no, Mickey doesn't say shit. Like Mickey like communicates information, but he's not like shot calling. And so we had to look deeper, and it's like, well, no, it's just like when it comes to reviews, he's communicating, hey, I think we're doing this wrong in the setup. Hey, I think we're doing this wrong, blah, 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 blah. And I think he's probably an example of a player who like really thinks about the game and communicates about the game pretty well. And that's the thing that he offers. It's not the sexy thing like, oh, in the moment he's like, go Baron. That's the thing that people want to believe, like that's what it comes down to. But no, he's just a guy who like has a good amount of knowledge, is a good support, and communicates it well. And that's a skill that I like respect immensely. And I think is probably really easy for people to underrate, because like they want players to be very flashy, or they want like a comms video where they're telling everyone what to do, and they assume that those are like the two skills you can have in League of Legends.
Actually, that is true. Yeah. I think the voice comms have like a very big impact on what people perceive as a player, because I think sometimes when the voice comms is released on LEC channel or other channels, then they see like one team and they're like, oh my god, this guy is saying that we should kill Orianna, so he's the shotgun of the team. Yeah, that's completely opposite of how it works.
Normally it's like whoever's ahead kind of shot calls from my experience, or if you're dead in a team fight, it's better for you to just talk more because you see more, basically, right? It's just small things that happen. So yeah, you see different comms, different fights, different players say different things, I think. Also, like if you're the engage and you go and engage on the Orianna and scream Orianna, then of course you're the one who's supposed to scream it, right? Because you're the one going in. So there's different nuances.
We just always really liked the idea. I think it got romanticized very early on. I think like High was one of the examples, because he was the quote unquote like true shot caller for C9 to the point where like people were just putting him on random rosters because he was so good at shot calling, even when he wasn't doing as well individually. And I think like because that was so early in League of Legends, people just got really attached to that shot caller idea. And like even in season 5, season 6, I remember players like not on Euphoria but in other interviews, etc., being like, no, there's not. Stop talking about shot callers. It's just not how communication works at all. Like sometimes maybe yes, but it's part of like, that's just a small representation of what is a much bigger communication structure or a much bigger process on the team. That person isn't just like the genius mastermind. They're just the person that happens to talk the most and put in that position.
I think that in a perfect world, probably every single player would be able to like shot call in a way. So call his own shots and be able to lead the game from ahead, right? But we are not living in a perfect world, so some players have to practice more and some players have to practice less, right? And experience of course helps, and just like ability to know the game, but also playing certain roles can be easier. For example, playing jungler in the early game is quite chill, right? So we have the ability to lead the early game because, well, we are not really laning, so we are not really necessarily fighting from minute 1, so we can kind of have the overview of all the lanes, how they are going and what should we do next. But then let's say approaches 15 minutes, jungle falls 2-3 levels behind, you are just not as strong, you don't have as much agency unless, you made so much things happen in the early game. So then maybe the stick goes to the solo laners, and then, the solo laners have to kind of perceive their way of playing the game, or maybe the duo lanes ahead. So I feel like in a perfect game of League, it should be the person who is ahead, right? And hopefully you always have a person who is ahead. If not, I think it can be team. It can be just the person you trust, or it can be just someone who is confident. But yeah, someone has to make the calls, or someone has to say confidently, like, what do you actually want to do in the game? But I think in my experience, at least, it could be anyone. In the best rosters I had, it was always everyone kind of talking. Of course, some people give more information. Some people give more like decisive calls, but it still has to involve everyone. So
yeah. I think an interesting thing that I would love to hear about is kind of talk more about you and like yourself personally, your goals, your ambition. We talked a lot about you in the context of G2, but Caedrel, you were still playing last time. I can't. You've been on this podcast a number of times, Jankos, but last time I remember very vividly, we were like in a random production studio. It was like me, you, and Deficio, and we were talking about your goals, and you were like, yeah, maybe when I'm like done being a pro, I want to be like a content creator. I want to be this big personality. And obviously you stream on top of being a pro these days, so you're doing that to a certain degree. But I'm curious, like, how your personal goals, your personal ambitions for yourself have changed since like 2017, 2018, whatever was the last time we had that like big life discussion. Like, what are you looking to get? Because you're one of the guys that's been around the longest now. Again, I'd say you're like the longest standing G2 player. What is it for you? Are you still chasing world titles? Are you chasing being the best in your role? Like, what is it that you really want?
Are you saying I'm not the best in my role? Well, after these 4 weeks,
implying?
I'm not surprised.
I get it. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, is that what you're chasing? Is that what matters to you? I'm not saying where you're standing,
Well, I still want to win worlds, right? So the whole point of being in G2 esports as well, because I mean, it's not a secret, right? If you want to get paid, you go to NA.
Yeah.
If you want to win, you stay in Europe.
Yeah.
Fact.
So
You heard it here.
I think that, or okay, it's not true for certain players because, for example, Inspired was really not winning here, but he's winning in NA, right?
Yeah.
So I do think that like it can vary because being in the best NA team is most likely way, way more fun and probably more rewarding than being in like third, fourth European team. So I do think that for some people it did pay off to go to NA, not for everyone. But the point is, I think if you really want to win worlds, if you want to have a shot at winning worlds, you probably need the best teammates possible. And having 3 NA teammates might just not be the best way. Anyway, the point is, I always wanted to. I don't know why I just randomly claimed them. I didn't mean to. But
yeah, it just leaks out sometimes. I know.
Yeah, it's just like okay. Anyway, the point is that
You're good.
I'm not saying G2 is not paying me well. I'm happy, in my life, but I want to win, and the roster was made to win. And ever since I joined in 2018, it was made to win. And back then, it was about winning European titles for me because I never really won Europe before I joined G2.
Yeah.
Now that I won 5 splits in total, I still want to win more because I feel like winning splits is just so much more fun when you go to Worlds. Because when you get to go to Worlds and you know that like you are the European representative.
Yeah, you are the
You are
team.
the team. You are
The.
yeah. So anyway, the point is that I really, really like being the best. I really like the feeling of like being at least the best in Europe, right? But I want to feel how is it to feel the best in the world, and I was close to it in 2019, and every other time I went to Worlds, I was in semifinals and lost to a team that won. So I always have that luxury of losing to the team that wins, and it still
That's
sucks.
a good
It
stat,
doesn't-
though. It's like, well, I got to the finals, but I've been to 2 semis as well, and every single time I lost, it was against the winner. So
It was actually 3 semis now. 3 semis.
Yeah, 3
1
semis with the final,
And,
yeah.
But yeah, anyway, actually 4 then. Because 2016, 2018, 2020.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then 2019 was the...
And you always lost to the winner.
And I always lost to the winner.
Holy, that's pretty cool.
Damn.
That is pretty cool.
That's pretty
and
alpha.
it is pretty like... it makes my head like more cocky, which is not good, but it is what it is. And my personal goal, I want to be a content creator or like more of a streamer after I retire.
Yeah.
But I'm not really thinking about retirement because I feel like if I start thinking about it, then I will just not give it my best anymore.
Got
and
it.
the point is to give it your best. And, until I stay in esports, I really want to compete on the highest level. So right now I'm in G2, right? And we won Spring. We got smashed at MSI in BO5 against T1, but we did take a game off them in group. Same goes to RNG. And I think that, we can keep improving. We can keep being better. Currently, we're struggling to even make it to playoffs, but we have 4 weeks left. I think we can do better. And all I think about is really winning. And I'm not really thinking about Worlds right now. Yeah, the end goal is win Worlds, right? But I mean, that's like a dream, like a fairy tale. You don't really talk about winning awards when you're 4-5 in the regional league in Europe, You want to focus on the present. And I feel like for me right now, it's, winning a couple of games is going to make me very happy. Then, making to playoffs is going to make me very happy. Winning playoffs or doing well in playoffs is going to make me very happy. But doing well means winning. There's just no other way. Like either you win or you lose, right? There's no second place. There's no third place.
Earlier when we were talking about some of the teams that will like maybe make it to playoffs and then fall down, you talked about how they're like, oh, their goal is like be fifth. So how is that mentality separate from you who are like, right now you're not worried about Royals. Right now you're not even worried about anything other than playoffs. Like what's the line between like, is it different just because your goals just ramp up as you go further and you're like never content with where you're at? Like what separates you saying the only thing that matters right now is like getting wins ahead of us and getting to playoffs, and like those teams earlier that we talked about that maybe like fall down as like at the first hurdle because their goal is like getting top 5, top 4?
Well, I mean, I think it's just expectations, but it's also what you really like. Maybe it's believing how good you can be, right? Because I mean, I think that when we played scrims against the international teams, it actually felt, very, very winnable. And I feel like we still have so much potential to grow in us. So besides, how can you be a pro player and not believe that, you want to be the best? Yeah. I mean, you can be realistic, right? And you can be, okay, our goal is to make it to playoffs because we have a new roster and we don't have the best players. But I still feel like you should strive for like the highest standing you can. Mm-hmm. And for me, since my previous couple of years were rather successful, I can talk highly about, being the best or trying to be the best, sorry.
Yep.
Because clearly we are not the best, but I never really were, never won Worlds, but we are trying to be the best. But if you would ask me the same question back in 2016 or 15, then yeah, of course my goal would be to, win playoffs or do something. I wouldn't think about winning Worlds. I wouldn't think about maybe even making first in playoffs. Maybe I would care more about even making Worlds, so being top 3, right? Mm-hmm. But right now all I think about really is the first place. But for the first place, my mentality was always taking it step by step and not really overthinking it too much in the future.
Is that something you try to like rub off or instill in the team? Because I mean, G2 team environment looks incredible, but are you all on the same page when it comes to those goals? Like the team mood is that we're going to Worlds eventually, but right now we need to win.
Well, maybe we have taken the going to Worlds for granted lately. Because, we made it to MSI, so everyone got a little bit.
Maybe we made it.
Yeah, I feel like after making to MSI and winning Spring, I feel like everyone got way more cocky again.
Yeah.
We were really humble when we were the team in January.
Is it because you were the European team?
Yeah, that's right. We were the European team, and we were the team to go to beat T1 and RNG. At some point we were undefeated MSI. It really messes out your head a bit. And ever since, something goes down, baby. But anyway, I do think that the mentality is there to be the best, right? But again, right now maybe we were thinking too ahead of ourselves. Maybe we were thinking about Worlds. We were thinking about playoffs. We were thinking about whatever else will happen in the meta and how can we practice to be the best at the later patch for playoffs. But currently, especially that talk on Saturday, we already covered it, so we don't have to go back to it. But yeah, the big point of the talk also was maybe managing expectations a little bit and, realizing how important is getting wins now compared to later. Because in my mind, at least, often I do care about the present and I do care about, getting wins at the present. But I also like to think about what should we practice to be the best the next patch, the next week? But we don't have luxury for that anymore. We have to do what will make us win now. Mm-hmm. And we don't have the luxury of practicing for playoffs, practicing for next patch, or maybe even, not playing certain champions that are strong in the meta just because maybe they'll be nerfed in 2 weeks. So we shouldn't technically have to worry about them because they are just not going to be relevant in 2 weeks. But we need wins now. So we have to worry
think about the
because
short term.
Maybe, exactly.
Yeah. That's a difficult position to be in. As a final kind of point of discussion before we round out the podcast for today, there's 2 things that we have to cover.
EUphoria MVP?
3, technically. EUphoria MVP, shoes. And then they did this on the broadcast this weekend, and I would love to these are low. I'm not going to make you do a big, bold prediction in terms of I'm not going to attach any stakes to it unless you're fiending.
I think we used to do that, right? Where we had to do a bet. And then I think that you lost
What was the bet?
And I think you had to be like cosplay something.
Was it the
Oh,
Roccat?
was it the Zyra Khan? Was that you bet with you?
Or was it the
I think
chicken
it was
dance?
with me and Mickey, no?
Oh, it was with you and Mickey. Oh, you guys were supposed to be Zyra Khan at the road show. That's how we lost. That's how I ended up as it's hard to keep track. I lose most of the bets, I've learned.
Yeah.
You were standing behind me in the Roccat. Was it that bet?
Yeah, that was that one where I was
God.
allowed to. It was I was going to be on stage. Oh my god.
Oh my God.
That was brutal.
Good times.
Before we do MVP, Phil, if you can throw the standings up, 4 teams who are not making playoffs. It's week 4. There's 4 more weeks. It's best of ones. I'm not
Trevor
going to
did this,
roast you,
And I have to do it?
but the fan, you're going to do it. You're going to do it, and then we'll comment on it.
Yeah.
We'll do our own.
Okay, to be honest, it is so difficult because I don't want to include G2. But, okay, so the easy guesses, Team BDS, right?
Yeah.
Team
SK
BDS,
Gaming,
safe guess.
I
Yep.
still think they're not making playoffs. Astralis, I still think they're not making playoffs.
I think you're in the same boat. Those 3 feel like
those 3 are safe bets, right?
Yeah.
And then we have a problem because I see G2 Esports in bottom 4 teams. And that's my slight worry, my slight worry on my head right now.
I think Comp said in an interview, jokingly, not 100% serious, but he was asked the same question. He said G2 would not make playoffs.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
said
I'm
it
not
with,
surprised,
he said it with
right?
a smile on his face. So
kinda-
a little bit of a...
So if I had to guess right now, it would be between Misfits and Excel.
ooh.
Okay.
And that is because I don't want to say G2. But if we had to, if I was, let's say, Vitality player, then I would say G2. Just because we suck right now. We went 0-4.
Yeah.
And we actually have like I guess it's like the split kind of resets, right? It's 9 games against every other team again, right? But it just it's kind of like however the standings will be. I can also see Fnatic maybe. And I know I'm like putting a lot of big names, but for some reason I think Misfits will like weasel they're out into playoffs.
They always pull it off somehow.
Yeah, I don't know.
They?
Like, okay, the obvious choice would be Misfits, but I have a feeling that one of the big teams is not gonna make playoffs, and it could be us, it could be Excel, it could be Fnatic.
It's so interesting.
And I think for some reason, I think Vitality will make playoffs.
that's what I was gonna say. Is because to me, Vitality Misfits, given their playoff performance last season, given their inconsistencies this season, although Misfits, credit to them, are a
I think Vitality was just unlucky that they faced us.
I mean,
But they lost to the finalists. They
yeah,
lost to the winner. They lost to the
you're
winner.
right. Sorry, that's right. That's the
lost
logic.
to the winner.
You've lost a finalist. Vitality lost a finalist. I take it back. Vitality can't do it. I don't know. It's actually is very hard. I would say Misfits.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is the safe bet, but
But you got to
just
be
won, like,
spicy.
okay.
You got to be spicy.
To be honest, though,
Excel also there, but only because
I'm gonna
last
say-
week
I'm
was
gonna-
such a hot mess.
I'm going to say Excel as well.
Oh, you're gonna what? You
Yeah,
worked
yeah.
for them.
Yeah, it's, it's even funnier then.
actually, I think Caedrel is like, is like, I'm saying in a joking way, but he's a bit salty, you know? He's like, oh, you're not gonna make playoffs now that I'm not.
just like in the sidelines crying, watching them make it last split.
So to be fair, the Excel cold open is the bet that we lost this weekend. We made a song for Excel because I lost a bet, as I do lose bets, and it's about, and it might just be the biggest caster curse of all time. And
Don't worry, we don't have to make a bet, but I think Misfits would be the safe choice. I think if the standings would be a bit different, so if G2 Esports would actually like step up a little bit harder on Saturday close out that the game against Misfits,
Yep.
and then we would flip Misfits and G2 right now, we would be in like the big 4 and Misfits would be in the bottom 4. I think I would actually place Misfits there, but for some reason they're winning so many games right now. I think they're like a 4-game winning streak or so.
But
so I wanna give them the benefit of the doubt.
so final answer is Excel, Vitality. Give me a final. 'Cause we
Okay,
know
just one team.
Well,
Just one.
because
We
we
know
know
the
BDS,
three.
SK, Astralis. Those are your safe bets.
Okay,
And I think everyone would
my
agree.
final call is gonna be Misfits.
Misfits aren't making it.
Safe
Caedrel,
bet.
who's your
I
final?
said Excel. Going to be a bit spicy.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I
Say
do like the Excel
I'm
one.
gonna
I
say
do like it.
Vitality.
You're gonna
I
say
just have-
Vitality?
They have. I know they're a good team conceptually.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people on that team but I just like every time I think they're gonna do something good, I feel like they fail.
They just mess
They
it up.
did win Fnatic. Fnatic went 0-2 this week. Same
That
as
is
us.
true.
And
Fnatic
Excel.
is also on the list. This is the hardest. it has
United
ever
in
been.
rivalry.
United in rivalry, baby. Straight to the bottom. Race to the bottom.
Race to 7th.
Oh man. All right. Last thing then on the agenda is EUphoria MVP.
Yeah, Certus.
You think Certus?
I think Certus.
Certus. So the idea is the best player across the week performance, most valuable player, is not the best individual performer, but the player who would without this player, their team wouldn't have been able to achieve those results. Caedrel's vote is for Certus. Is there anyone
Can
that
I
comes
play
to
my
your mind?
teammates right now?
You can play your
Which
teammates.
player would okay, so from
Euphoria Inter of the week.
I actually don't know about MVPs. I'm not sure. I mean, the teams that went to always Mad Lions is SK Gaming, right? Is also Misfits. I mean, Certus would be like the easy choice because, I mean, he did solo kill caps, I guess, which is like pretty damn good. You know,
Yeah,
if you
it's
get a
pretty-
solo kill.
pretty
Also,
damn
they
good.
destroyed Excel 8-0-2 on Silas. Really high damage numbers. Had a really
Okay,
good
yeah.
game.
I'm down for Certus, but to be honest with you, I am not very qualified to talk about that because I just didn't watch every game because
Yeah.
I'm more worried about our team than other teams, right? And
That's
when I'm
totally
watching other
fine.
teams, I'm also not like looking at players individually too much. So I could be like bullshitting you because I probably know enough about League to bullshit some people, like people that are watching right now. Sorry, guys. But I would just say I'm not qualified. I can be down. I'm down for
that's
Certus.
respectable. There's a lot of people.
Some people come in here and peer pressure us into certain answers.
Yeah,
and
well,
they're
that's
like,
the good thing is
"Oh,
that's
well, what
why
about
it's
this
nice
player?"
as we got Jankos after a 0-2
Oh, yeah.
weeks because normally
I'm very humble right now.
You'd peer pressure for your own team. You'd bully us to pick someone
Yeah.
on your own team.
Yeah,
I-
I'm like giga humble.
I'm inclined, and this is not to take away anything from Rogue, especially who I think had a
Comp.
great game because Comp had a great week,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of players on Rogue actually had a really great week. But it was, as it is often the case for me with Rogue, it's like feels like a greater team effort, and it still was a greater team effort for SK. But I think the one person who stood out the absolute most was Certus. So
And if you just look at strength schedule, right, they played against Vitality, yes, and BDS, I believe, Rogue. But SK was against Excel and G2, right? And the fact that,
should have been 2 unwinnable games, I think, based on what we saw prior.
Should have
to
been 2
break.
unwinnable games, but we're not.
But-
Damn.
the week of upsets.
Actually,
All right.
what's so we have 2 mid lane MVPs
Yep.
and then 2 jungle MVPs.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Wow.
It's hard to get other people's MVPs. Support were popular.
Could have
last
been you.
season. These 2 were the winners. They were tied.
Maybe 3 years ago. Oh, yeah. They were
Don't do
tied.
yourself
though.
like
They were
that.
tied
were
2 and 2. So we just gave it to them both.
Oh, that's so
Caedrel,
cool.
can you
actually.
take the whiteboard and write that? Because if anyone ever sees my handwriting, I'll be roasted for
my
the rest of my life.
Same.
My handwriting is not much better. Look at Phil's. Phil's handwriting is incredible.
So nice. Okay.
Wait, what Finn wrote? Finn wrote Finn.
Finn is no shoes. Okay, so there's 2 things happening on this whiteboard, Caedrel. If you can show the whiteboard to the camera, pull it off, like bring it with you to the center. The whiteboard has list of people who have won MVP, and then do you wear shoes or no shoes on stage? So Jankos is our second guest since we started the shoes no shoes. Are you
It's actually pretty cool.
are you a
thing.
shoes no shoes guy?
So I'm type of person who does everything for a reason.
yeah.
Even though some people may know me that I actually don't use my brain too much, I actually tend to think a lot. So anyway, for my shoes, no shoes, when I am hard chilling and just playing the game,
Yep.
I'm gonna have shoes on.
Got it.
But when I'm like actively trying to win and make myself more comfortable, I'll play shoes off. So it depends on the play.
So if you're trying to win, you take them off.
Yeah.
So
So in playoffs, if we are 0-2 down, I'm gonna take off my shoes.
Okay. And if you're 0-4 in a regular split next week, this
I'm gonna
weekend,
take off my shoes.
you're
as
gonna
well.
take your
I
shoes
think
too?
that's a vote for no shoes.
That's no shoes
Because
then.
I think if you're no shoes when the pressure is
But
on,
the shoes,
you're a no
I'm
shoes
playing
player.
I'm playing with shoes like 90% of the games though. Like with shoes 90% and 10% is like I'm trying to like change something, so I take my shoes off.
Okay.
So I would say shoes,
I think
but
your
I would
shoes
also
then.
say no shoes.
Okay, let's
so
phrase-
you have to make my name
Let's phrase
just
it
in
this
between.
way. Let's phrase it this way.
You can put him in the
You
middle.
have
so
you have a child, baby Jankos.
Okay.
And he's just about to play his debut LEC game, and he says,
Okay.
"Dad, should I put my shoes on, leave my shoes on, or should I take them
I
off?"
don't think I would do it to my child. I don't think I would make him play League.
Okay, his debut, his piano recital, his football game, I don't give a shit. He says football game, yes, probably have to wear shoes. Piano recital, something.
Chess, piano, league.
he's like, should I wear shoes? Should I wear no shoes? Like the
What did you do in your career, Dad?
Oh, sheesh. I would say, do whatever is comfortable for you, my son. Okay,
I like
it's
how older Jankos just drops 3 octaves. Hello, son.
Sounds like your motto stuff.
I've gained 30 years and my voice drops every year.
So anyway, I would actually put myself in between. It's so hard to decide for
He
me.
can be in the
It's
middle. You
crazy.
can put him in the middle, just like erase the line right below Finn.
Like, because, okay, I think
put Jankos in the
I should
middle.
have the luxury of being in the middle because I'm so thought of about it. Like, I'm not sure if the Finn gave you like a very distinct explanation.
Finn was definitively no shoes, but I got distracted because I was memeing Caedrel for asking the question because I thought he was going for some like weird foot stuff. So- but now I understand it's a valid question.
It
is kinda like,
an
you know.
arrow win and arrow lose.
No, I think you just leave it for
No,
now,
just
and
leave it
we
there.
can recap at the end of the season, decide if no.
Yeah,
shoes
if you
or
guys
no
ever
shoes.
like recap me and you wanna decide which one, just put shoes because I mean I just play 90%.
Well, we might have
The,
to
the
call
day you
you-
win Worlds, we'll
Well,
ask
well,
you
yeah.
whether you're wearing shoes or not.
Okay, yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
yeah. Or if we have to tie break at the end of the season.
So
we'll
if
make
if
pick
you
a
are
side.
talking about our wins, for example, I think when we were winning, I had shoes on most likely. Like normally I take shoes off when we start losing.
Got it. All right, Jankos. I think practice is going to be pretty important this week since your guys are 0-4s. We've mentioned a million times on the podcast. So
Wait,
we'll
they
let
were
you
4?
go.
Thanks.
Is there anything that you would like to, I don't know, say to anybody, sponsors, Twitch stream shout out to teammates, fans? Anyone you think deserves more recognition? Anything? This is just a few minutes here. You can say anything that you want.
Okay.
That's
of
not
course,
offensive.
I would like to give a shout out to Drakos and Caedrel for
Thank you.
inviting me to the
Thank
show.
you. Literally
not knowing
anytime.
that I was 0-2 and now I'm 0-4. So thanks.
That's why we asked before the
making
weekend.
sure that my time is. But yeah, I mean, I'm grateful to my teammates that they didn't really give up mentally. I feel like everyone is like still pretty happy. Shout out to G2 for still paying us after the last 2 weeks. Shout out to all the fans for sweating with us and hopefully supporting us. And we will see each other in playoffs, right? I think that in a way it's an exciting season for all of us because we have so many even teams. It could just be fans being unhappy and saying that, oh my god, we are not necessarily doing good anymore and Europe sucks. It could be something else, but I feel like as a matter of fact, the season is still even, right? And we still have so many teams fighting and trying to clash their way into playoffs, and there is a world where in 4 weeks we have clear favorites and it just doesn't matter anymore. But for now, at least, everyone has to sweat for it. Maybe outside of Rogue, who has 7 wins. So I'm quite excited, and I hope LEC fans are excited as well. And do not worry, I saw some comments that we are worse than NA. We are really not worse than NA.
Just had to clear that
So
up.
really, I want to just clarify that. That's the last.
Let's not go too far, guys.
So I know it's like not much to say, right? Because being better or worse than NA, I mean, it's not like we were ever worse than NA, but we are still struggling against Korea and China a lot. But yeah, well, anyway, we'll get better.
There. We'll get there. Thank you, Jankos, again for being here. Thank you so much. If you guys want to check him out, twitch.tv/ is it G2 Jankos or just Jankos?
I think it's just Jankos.
Twitch.tv/Jankos. If you want to ask him more questions, you can go there and do it. He streams pretty regularly. Are you doing Polish streams or are you only doing English streams these days? Are you mixing?
I do only English streams. I think I do every day besides Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays.
Every day
That
besides
makes
Thursday,
sense.
Friday, Saturday. And if you want to see him on Friday or Saturday, you can check out the LEC starting at 6 p.m. Berlin time on Fridays, 5 p.m. Berlin time on Saturday. They're playing what looks to be Game 4 both days. So big bangers for day 1 versus Straw. See if you can find your first win there. And then
No match of the
obviously,
weekend 7th. Sorry, buddy.
Huge challenge versus
If we lose
Rogue
that
on
Saturday,
Saturday.
bro, like, oof.
Yeah.
That's a rough split.
So there it is. Check out the LEC. Check out Jankos' stream.
That is the match of the week then. G2 Astralis Game 4.
G2
I mean,
Astralis
this is
Game
like
4.
all about who can actually
Yeah.
make it to like the top teams.
Who's going to break the top 6?
Ooh, sick. I love it. 2 orgs whose Counter-Strike teams are good and league teams are in 7th.
Wait, actually though, I think like G2 Counter-Strike is like.
No, you guys got blasted out of Cologne, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't kept up.
I think
with it.
Astralis
Didn't
is
even make
better.
it to
I don't know.
Cologne, did they?
Is Astralis
Astralis
wasn't, I don't know. They've lost half their players.
I just thought the final wasn't
Vitality
saying
and, yeah. Anyway. I don't know enough about CS to talk about CS. Anyway, banger final though. Yeah, check out the LEC this weekend. Check out Jankos on his stream. Thank you again, Jankos, for being here. This has been Euphoria episode 5. Also, Caedrel stream, twitch.tv/Caedrel. Why not? Let's just get all the shout outs there.
And Twitch says Drakos cast.
That's Drakos Cast. Yeah, I don't
Apex
stream right
streams.
now. Apex streams. That's what we are. Anyway, thanks for coming. Good luck this weekend, my friend. And yeah, tell the boys I said hi.
Thank you.
You're welcome.